ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so Madhurya Kadambini, chapter 4, fourth shower of nectar. Nishtha. Now we've discussed three stages. Those Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, and then Bhajana Kriya. And then we also discussed about Anartha Nivritti. Now this is the fifth stage, Nishtha. So recapping Anartha Nivritti. Anarthas are of four types. Anarthas arising from sinful life, previous sinful life. Anarthas arising from previous pious life. Anarthas arising from nama, from aparada. And anarthas arising from imperfectly performing bhakti. So of these four types, the most difficult ones are the anarthas arising from aparada. Amongst in aparada, there are multiple. Basically, there's nama aparada and seva aparada. Nama aparada is the one which blocks our progress. And seva aparada, if ignored or if taken carelessly or not seriously, it also converts into results in nama aparada and thereby prevents progress. Nama aparada, we discussed sadhu ninda, guru ravagya. These are very, very difficult if we commit. So we should never commit these two. And others, we'll overcome over a period of time as we hear more philosophy. And the last one, hum and mama, and that is so eventually devotees get stuck there, and that aham and mama is just the soul desiring sense gratification. So we should just reprogram ourselves saying that I am the soul, I'm part and parcel of Krishna, I have to just serve Krishna, I'm not here for sense gratification. um and constant continuous shravanam, uh, kirtanam, and association of devotees will help us overcome this aham and mama. If nama prada is committed unintentionally, then the solution is continuous chanting of the holy name. If nama prada is committed intentionally, then it actually takes a longer time. Um, Eventually, the specifically sadhu ninda, we have to go fall at the lotus feet of the Vaishnava whom we have offended. And if they pardon us, then we are saved. Otherwise, we have to constantly keep chanting the holy name to come out of this. And in terms of nivritti, in terms of getting rid of those, namaparada takes the longest time. And even at the stage after attaining the lotus feet of Lord, only it becomes atyantiki. Atyantiki means that it doesn't reoccur. Otherwise, even in the stage of prema, it is purna, complete, but there is chance of reoccurring. In bhava, anyway, it is still there, like in the case of uh, Bharat Maharaj. Um, and anarthas arising from previous sinful life, pious life, they're okay. They get completely destroyed without possibility of recurrence in asakti. And anarthas arising from imperfect bhakti, those get destroyed in the stage of ruchi. Hmm. Um, so that is the recap of anartha nivritti to a great extent. And of course, finally, Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that a devotee who surrendered to Krishna, um, So Nama doesn't bestow mercy immediately, even for a person who is not committing any aparadha. It will bestow its mercy at the right time. Um, Also, devotees who are surrendered and uh, serving Krishna seriously. Mm. So they also, whatever sufferings they experience in their life is not due to their karma phala. It's mostly because of the mercy of the Lord, to make them more humble, to increase their longing for the Lord. So Krishna himself um, creates these situations for devotees. So we should understand that at the time of Diksha, if we are surrendered, then all our previous karma phala is destroyed. Um, because bhakti is so powerful. Okay, so this is a recap of Anartha Nivritti. Now, the fourth chapter, which is the fifth stage, um, is Nishta. Now, our immediate goal has to be to come to the platform of Nishta. Mhm. So we'll understand what is this Nishta. We discussed already Anishtita Bhakti. Anishtita Bhakti is has basically um, five reasons, right? Avidya, then which is ignorance, then false ego, asmita, then hatred, daga, dvesha, attachment, hatred, and abhinivesha, which is um, so these are all kleshas. Mm, Klesha. So um, anishtita bhajana kriya when we are doing without we are basically not fixed. And sorry, this is klesha. Anishtita is ganatarala. What are those six things? Mm, can't remember. Tarangarangini, Utsahamai, Ganatarala, indecision, Vyuda Vikalpa, then struggling with Maya, Vishaya Sangara, inability to uphold vows, Niyamakshama, and finally Rangarangini. So these are Anishtita. These are the characteristics of Anishtita Bhakti. So Utsahamai is just thinking that we are already like come to the pure stage. Sporadic endeavor is pendulum, right? Intense, diluted efforts. Vyuda Vikalpa is indecision, not able to take, not clear about the path that we have to take. Sometimes we'll decide to do some service, then we'll drop it, take something else like that. Not being fixed. Vishaya Sangara is um, struggle with Maya. Niyamakshama is inability to uphold vows. We take up some vows and then we are not able to stick to it. And eventually, Tarangarangini is La Puja Pratishtha. Right. So these are all the characteristics of Anishtita Bhakti. Mm, what was it? Vishaya Sangara? Um, Material enjoyment. Okay. Sense pleasure. Okay. Niyamakshama and Tarangarangini. So now this Anishtita. So these six reasons result in the devotee being in Anishtita stage. Now we have to cross over this Anishtita to come to Nishta. Otherwise, the Anartha Nivritti takes time because we discussed, right? The Anarthas, um, see, the Anarthas arising from Nama Parada. So even in Nishta, where is that? Yeah, even in Nishta, the eradication is pervasive, meaning even if you come to Nishta stage, Nama Paradas only, the anarthas arising from Nama Parada, only the very little eradication, even in Nishta stage. So if you don't come to Nishta at all, then it's very hopeless, right? Limited, very limited eradication of anarthas from Nama Parada. So which means that we'll really find it very difficult to make progress. So at least Nishta is something that we can put effort. See, Nishta is a stage where a devotee can put effort to come to Nishta. because higher stages from there on is purely mercy of the Lord. This also is mercy, but Krishna is also seeing how much effort we are putting. Okay, so this we have to understand that we should endeavor to come to Nishta, meaning that some of these things which are there, which we talked about, the characteristics of unsteady bhakti, many of it we should actually fight. We should struggle to overcome those. Um, that is our sadhana, actually. Our sadhana is to overcome these characteristics of unsteady bhakti and come to Nishta. If you don't come to Nishta, then, pretty much all our anarthas will remain. Most of our anarthas remain, if you see, right? Only anarthas arising from previous, that is okay. Like uh, it becomes complete. Like from previous sinful life, those anarthas, previous sinful and pious life, they become complete in the stage of Nishta. So it's at least something we will accomplish if you come to Nishta. At least from our anarthas from previous sinful life will stop affecting us. So Nishta is a bare minimum requirement we have to come to, right? Without Nishta, we cannot make any progress. So today we'll understand what this Nishta is. Previously, in the discussion of the two types of bhajana kriya, Nishtita and Nishtita, 6 types of Anishtita bhajana kriya were described. Without describing Nishtita bhajana kriya, Anartha Nivritti was then discussed. As Srimad Bhagavatam says, Shrinutam Svakara Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantasto Yabhadrani Vidanoti Surutsatam. Krishna, who purifies by the process of hearing and chanting, who is the benefactor of the devotees who hear about him, enters the heart of the devotees and destroys their sins. Nashtaprayashu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamma Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. As the impediments to bhakti, which is anarthas, become generally destroyed by constant service to the devotees and Bhagavatam, the stage of Nishtita Bhakti to Bhagavan, who is praised by the greatest sages, become established. So here is the answer, which we talked about, right? To come to the stage of Nishtita Bhakti, what we should do? One is constant hearing and service to devotees, because Bhagavatam, service to Bhagavatam is constant hearing and constant service to devotees. So if we do this, then that Anishtita, whatever characterized Anishtita Bhakti will be overcome. The first verse, which is this one, Srinvata Svakata Krishna, refers to the stage of Anishtita or unsteady Bhakti. Or in the next verse, Naistiki Bhakti is mentioned. In the first verse, Abhadrani Vidunoti, destruction of inauspicious elements, refers to the stage of Anartha Nivritti, situated between the two stages of bhajana. The words Nashtapraya should destroyed means that the anarthas are not present at all. So here, Nashtaprayashu Abhadreshu, the proper order according to Bhagavatam is therefore Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, and then Nishta. Therefore, Nishtita Bhakti will be discussed now. So, just to be clear, so Anishtita Bhakti, and then we'll cross Anartha Nivritti, then we'll come to Nishtita Bhakti. And what is the process to come to Nishtita Bhakti? Here it is a constant service to devotees and Bhagavatam. Okay. So if we engage in constant service to devotees and Bhagavatam, then we'll come to the stage of Nishtita Bhakti. Okay. So that is what is being said. Nishta means to be endowed with the quality of steadiness or absence of fluctuation. So if you see all those things that we discussed, right, which were characteristics of Anishtita Bhakti, are all because of lack of steadiness. And pendulum, most of them are pendulum. So basically, Nishtha means steadiness or absence of fluctuation. Though a person tries for steadiness every day while anarthas are still present, he cannot attain steadiness. This is due to persistent obstacles. Now, there are other obstacles which are also being discussed, which is also similar to what was discussed in Anishtita, but this is a slightly, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is presenting it slightly differently. So these are also obstacles. No, we should understand those are also obstacles. Those are the Anishtita Bhakti is also obstacle. Then now there are certain characteristics which are being talked about as obstacles to Nishta. So all these are obstacles. So what are these obstacles? Laya, which is mental inactivity or sleep, laziness basically. Vikshepa, projection. We'll understand what this is. Apratipatti, spiritual indifference is very important. Kashaya, sinful habits, and rasaswada, taste for material enjoyment. So some of these already we covered in that characteristics of Anishtita Bhakti. Some are new. After the stage of Anartha Nivritti, when all of these obstacles are almost completely destroyed, one achieves Nishta. Um, the symptoms of steadiness are thus the absence of the above mentioned bad habits. So basically, these bad habits have to stop. These bad habits, and when these bad habits stop, then the other characteristics that we talked about also will stop, which is, uh, that Utsahamahi, Ganatarala, all that. Hmm. So these bad habits have to stop. So we'll understand what these bad habits are. These are habits. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying these are habits, bad habits. Laya refers to tendency to sleep during Kirtana, Shavana, and Smarana. This is the most difficult one. Most devotees, as soon as Bhagavatam class starts, they sleep. It has become like a joke. Saying if somebody is not getting sleep at home, let them come to Bhagavatam class in the temple, right? They will sleep. So Kirtana, then even chanting, right? Well, chanting, people sleep. Chanting, hearing, Smarana. Smarana, to anyway, we even not even come to that. We don't even think about Smarana. But on a daily basis, chanting, we see devotees sleeping. Bhagavatam, Shavanam, we see devotees sleeping. This is called Laya, laziness. Vikshepa means projection. Vikshepa refers to projecting mundane conceptions while hearing, reciting, or remembering the topics of the Lord. Projecting mundane conceptions, meaning we hear something, but we will, everything we will understand with a mundane conception. Projecting, it's like a projector, meaning there is some topic on that, these mundane conceptions are projected. Vikshepa. Which is basically because our mind is so much engrossed in this Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mohamada, Matsarya, that everything we hear from the tinge, with the tinge of mundane conceptions. Apratipatti is refers to the state of indifference, being unable to perform kirtana except in spite of absence of laya and vikshepa. So there is no laya, there's no sleepiness, and there's no projecting a mundane conception, but still indifference. We are indifferent towards what we have to do. Meaning, yeah, ठीक है चलता है. I mean, we'll do, otherwise we won't do. Today I have to do Bhagavatam for one hour. Okay, I'm not sleepy, but I don't feel like doing. This is what is that? Apratipatti. Last one is Kashaya, means tendency to indulge in anger, greed, pride, and other unworthy habits. Taste for material enjoyment. Finally, Rasaswada. Sinful habits is anger, greed, pride, and other unworthy habits. And Rasaswada, inability to observe the mind in Kirtana when there arises the opportunity for material sense pleasure. Uh, when there is opportunity for material sense pleasure, then we are not able to observe in Kirtana. Mm. For example, if there is a time for prasadam, then we will become agitated. Because we are not actually taking prasadam as mercy, we sense pleasure. Right. So Nishta appears in the absence of these faults. So when does Nishta appear? When all these faults don't exist. Meaning, we don't sleep during Kirtana, Shravana, Smarana. We don't project mundane conceptions on spiritual topics. Mm. We don't, we are not indifferent towards practice of bhakti. We have given up anger, greed, pride, and other unworthy habits, and our mind is not absorbed in material enjoyment. So when these 5 things are achieved, only then Nishtha appears. The mind becomes unaffected by lust, greed, anger, hatred, and illusion which arise from rajas and tamas. So yesterday somebody was asking, why should we not eat chocolate? I said, this is the reason. Because it is rajas. And when rajas happens, what happens? Even if somebody doesn't have greed, anger, hatred, lust illusion will happen by rajas and tamas. Tamas illusion, right? And rajas too much spicy food, too much all this chocolate and all this. It just results in rajas and tamas. So because of which mind becomes affected by lust, greed, anger, etc. So when the mind becomes unaffected by this, then the mind becomes fixed. Mm. So, which means that we should basically come to the platform of Sattva Guna. If you have to come to Nishta, we have to come to Sattva Guna. Since all of the impurities are completely removed, only at the stage of Bhava, the phrase here, okay. Nishtita Bhakti means steadiness of two types, concerning Bhakti directly and concerning elements favorable to Bhakti. Steadiness and Bhakti itself has three divisions, bodily, vocal, and mental. According to some authorities, first one attains steadiness in bodily services, then in vocal activities, and finally in mental activities. Others, however, disagree with this progression, saying that because of the differences of the strength, endurance, or potency of the body, voice, and mind, different devotees, particular devotee. Okay. So basically, it is saying that, okay, steadiness has to be, we have to see steadiness in three aspects, bodily, vocal, and mental. Bodily meaning our what time we get up, our uh, uh, daily practices like what time we take bath, etc., etc. That is bodily study steadiness. Vocal is kirtana, chanting, hearing, and basically kirtana. And mental is remembering, uh, and Shravana is also mental, right? Because we are hearing. Uh, so all aspects of bhakti basically have to become steady. Then there is steadiness concerning elements favorable to bhakti. Steadiness in elements favorable to bhakti refers to steadiness in such qualities as humility, giving respect to others, friendliness, and mercy. No, these are not necessarily directly bhakti because these are elements which are favorable to bhakti. So humility, giving respect to others, friendliness, and mercy, there should be steadiness in this also. However, sometimes steadiness in such qualities may be seen in devotees who have the ability to control the senses, but who have not developed steadiness in bhakti. So, which means that these qualities by themselves are not important. First thing is steadiness in bhakti has to be there, right? So, sometimes steadiness in qualities like humility is not seen in those who attain steadiness in bhakti. So, sometimes who are people who are steady in bhakti are not steady in these elements favorable to bhakti. Hmm. However, steadiness in bhakti itself gives one the proper intelligence to perceive the presence of steadiness in the qualities in the person. Okay, who has steadiness in bhakti, and to perceive absence of steadiness in the qualities in a person who have not steadiness in bhakti. I'll explain this. Inexperienced perception cannot substantiate the truth. This is confirmed by the verse quoted above, and which states that with the appearance of Nishita Bhakti, the devotee attains a position in which the qualities of both Rajas and Tamo are absent and sattva qualities are present. In summary, one should understand that the laxity or intensity of effort in the matters of devotional activities, such as hearing and chanting, when they become a fixed practice, produce correspondingly two types of bhakti, unsteady and steady. Okay, so what is being said here is the study, elements. So there are two aspects here. There is bhakti itself has to be steady, and there is elements which are favorable to bhakti, like behavior, our attitude, humility, respect, friendliness, mercy. This also has to be steady. But sometimes we see that there are people who are steady in bhakti, but who are not steady in elements favorable to bhakti. But actually, both should happen. Both should happen. Mm. Because when one is steady in bhakti, then he can actually perceive uh, the other people also and see that, okay, this person is also steady in bhakti. And then obviously the way we will interact with them will be different, right? But in general, both these elements are important. Because one comes to Nishta. When one comes to Nishta, Nishta means basically we are in the stage of Sattva. So there are a lot of details, but just to summarize, Nishtha Bhakti means that we have overcome laziness, we are overcome projecting mundane conceptions onto spiritual life. Projecting mundane conceptions also means things like, um, you know, um, like it's also part of the Nama Parada, I guess. And so we are hearing, remembering topics of the Lord, but in a mundane way. We are not looking at it spiritually, right? So this also has to be avoided. Then indifference has to be avoided. Then kashaya, which is all this anger, greed, lust, anger, greed, etc., and material absorption. For these to be eliminated, basically the process is constant service to devotees and Bhagavatam. When we do that, like is said in this verse, when we do that, we will come to the stage of Sattva Guna, right? Which is Rajas and Tamas is eliminated. When Rajas and Tamas is eliminated, then we become steady in Bhakti, and we also become steady in the elements favorable to Bhakti. So this is what is Nishta. So let me recap once more. It's a slightly complicated topic. So we talked about Anishtita Bhakti. Anishtita Bhakti is of 6 types. Like you said, Utsahamahi, Ghanatarala, pendulum business, then Vyuda Vikalpa, which is indecision. Then 4th one is Vishaya Sangara, which is fighting with Maya. 5th is Niyamakshama, which is inability to uphold vows. And finally, Tarangarangini, which is La Puja Pratishta. Now, when we are experiencing any of these, which means we are in stage of Anishtita. Now, these activities are because of few habits. Now, what are these habits? Laziness, projecting material conceptions on spiritual topics, that is Laya Vikshepa. Then Laya Vikshepa. What is that next one? Apratipatti, which is indifference towards spiritual things, spiritual practices. Kashaya, sinful habits. And Rasaswada, taste for material enjoyment. Now, because of these habits, we will show those characteristics of Anishtita Bhajana Kriya. Okay, so we will do Ganatarala, we will do Utsahamahi, we will be Vyuda Vikalpa, indecision, all that. But for all that, the root cause is these 5 characteristics. Which are the obstacles? These are called habits, right? Because sleeping is a habit. Spiritual indifference is a habit. Kashaya is doing sinful things is a habit. Rasaswada, having taste for material enjoyment, is a habit. So if we are stuck with these habits, then that Anishtita Bhajana Kriya manifests, and we will not be able to cross over Anartha Nivrutti. So if you have to cross over Anartha Nivrutti, a major of the Anartha Nivrutti, then we should get over these. So, and this is habit, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, which means that we should try to avoid this. Habit means it's a matter of doing it again and again. So we should try to avoid it. So we should try to avoid this Laya, Vikshepa, Apratipatti, Kashaya, and Rasaswada. Okay. Now the process to overcome these is constant service to devotees and Bhagavatam. Because as stated in this verse, Nashta Prayasho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So when we do regular constant service to devotees and Bhagavatam, then what happens? Nashta Prayashu. Then Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So we come to the stage of Naistiki Bhakti. So this Naistiki Bhakti is characterized by steadiness. Anishtita Bhajana Kriya is characterized by unsteadiness because of those 5 qualities: Laya, Vikshepa, Apratipatti, Kashaya, and Rasaswada. And when we do constant service to devotees and Bhagavatam, we come to the stage of Nishtita Bhakti. And Nishtita Bhakti basically means steadiness in Bhakti in mind, words, and body, Kaya, Vacha, Manasa, steadiness. And also steadiness in elements which are favorable to Bhakti, like humility, respect to others, friendliness, mercy, etc. Become steady. Now we can become steady only if we come to the stage of Sattva. So once, like I keep saying, Vidur Gaurang Vidwan Gaurang Prabhu had said, saying that practice to live a life of Sattva Guna. So at that time, I didn't understand what that is. So if we don't practice the life of Sattva Guna, then we will not come to Naishtika Bhakti, because we will remain in Rajas and Tamas. Now, on one end, we say when we are practicing Bhakti is transcendental. Nishtray Gunya Bhavajana. Yes, but if the modes that we have acquired, Like Kapila Muni says that we can also end up doing bhakti in the mode of passion, ignorance, and goodness. At least we should come to the stage of doing bhakti in goodness first. Otherwise, we can't transcend. So, what is living life in Sattva Guna means? Basically, avoid everything which is Rajas and Tamas. Sleeping too much, right? Just crazily running around here, there, doing 150 things, not connected to bhakti, just mundane stuff, right? Actually, I'm seeing even spiritual things. If like my nature is generally Rajas, I want to do things, achieve things. Now, when we do that on the even on the platform of bhakti, what happens is we will still remain in Rajaguna. While it is helpful, because we will engage in activity, it is better than tamas people who are in tamoguna who don't want to engage in activities. But still, it will not help us to come to the stage of Nishta. So we have to come to the stage of Sattva Guna. We have to come to Sattva Guna if we have to come to Nishta. And how will we achieve that? Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Constant service to devotees and Bhagavatam is the answer for Nishtita Bhakti, which is why, many times I've highlighted before saying that at least read Bhagavatam for 1 hour, at least. So if we see the topics are very complicated, it's a very complex philosophy, but solution is very simple. Solution is simply constant service to devotees and Bhagavatam. Irrespective whether we understood this complex connection, etc., doesn't matter. The the reasons why we are in an anishtita stage will be automatically overcome. We don't have to do anything if we do constant service to devotees and Bhagavatam. And what is the characteristic of Nishtita is that we are steady, which means it's Sattva Guna. Which means Sattva Guna. Right? So for this, actually, there are many things we can see in our life where we are not steady. Where we are not steady. Uh, uh, I don't know. Can devotees try to give some examples of how our practice in bhakti is steady or not steady? Because we have to realize this, that we are in this stage of where we don't have steadiness, and we have to come to steadiness. So how do we recognize, or can we see in our own lives how our bhakti is not steady? In what ways our bhakti is not steady? Any examples? Anybody can? This is a slightly complex topic, so I want a little bit more.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
The first is your food habits. Many a
First
times,
habit.
many a times certain things forbidden, and you still have a taste. बोला चल कोई बात नहीं भोग लगा वैसे खा लो, लेकिन apart from onion garlic, like mushrooms, chocolates, tea and coffee, decaf हो गया, ये हो गया. Sleeping habits also, Prabhu, like getting up, okay, ठीक है ना 15 minutes. Maya is always working. And recently, I mean, just last 3-4 days, I was out for a holiday in Shimla. You get so entangled. I mean, apart from your chanting, I mean, you realize that when you're not at a pilgrimage place and when you're in sense gratification, your mind. I'm talking about myself, probably, like with due apologies. It was like a clean slate, engrossed in sense gratification. Like you're wanting to shop, you're wanting to see this, you want to go to see that. Like a thoda sa your chanting, of course, I mean, is done because you are committed to the Guru, or you're committed. It becomes a habit. Without chanting, you can't live, because it's over the period of year, it's become part and parcel of your life. But apart from that, everything else, the only two good thing I was doing, I was listening continuously to your class and the morning class which I listened. Apart from that, everything went for a toss. So this is what I can do. And if agar us samay maut aa jata, I would have been in the highest attitude of sense gratification.
So, and like Madhurya Mataji is saying, chanting, reading timings are irregular. So we can see actually we have so many things which we are unsteady about, right? And this is one of the reasons why we suggest devotees, request devotees to make a sadhana chart, right? Because we should see for ourselves first thing, right? That my sadhana is unsteady, right? And first thing is to try and fix that sadhana and study. And like I'm saying, the thing is, obviously, like Mataji is saying, we should see the whole year of sadhana, whole year. Like I always keep saying, this anartha nivritti is like riding a bicycle uphill. The whole year we've so much struggled, put so much of effort. We've come, and then even for 1 week, if we stop pedaling, we'll go down. Right? We'll go down much faster. Possibly lose 3 months, 4 months, right, of our sadhana in just 4 days, 5 days of you know uh, being this rasaswada, this sense enjoyment. So we should keep these things away. Actually, this is our endeavor, right? We have to keep things away. Now, yeah, we will say, I don't have the strength to keep it away. Yeah, we have the strength. If we want to, we can do it. Like I said, soul is most powerful. Soul should resist sense gratification. Soul should say, no, I'm not here for sense gratification because I'm going to get bound again. I'm not going to get Krishna. Next, uh, so the sense gratification, to avoid all this, right? If you think we don't have strength, constantly we should be engaging in this reading Bhagavatam and serving devotees as much as possible, because just by doing this, we will recognize our frailties, we'll recognize our faults, our defects, and we will get the strength. Nishta, Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu. That's what it is saying. Nashta Prayeshu. All these anarthas will get destroyed. The idea of just eliciting what the different ways we are stuck in Anishtita Bhakti is to bring importance to serving devotees and Bhagavatam. For me, I remember like about 1.5 years back. No, actually, no, it's already 3 years, 2 years, 2.5 years when I left job. Last 6 months when Corona happened, 6 to 8 months, or 6 months at least. Constantly, I used to read Bhagavatam for 3 hours, 4 hours. I'm in the middle of job, I'm in the middle of calls. As soon as a call gets over, my Bhagavatam is open on the computer. And since it was work from home, who cares? I mean, as long as work gets done. So I used to make sure that work was getting done, but constantly just reading Bhagavatam. I didn't realize what effect it had on me only after I realized that it had a huge impact. In spite of all that, I still see that I don't have steadiness in elements of bhakti, right? Which means that it is difficult. It's not easy. I mean, if we put effort only, it'll take time, right? If we don't put effort, then where are we? Spiritual indifference. That is what this is, a pratipatti, right? We should not become indifferent towards our spiritual life. We are done with all this. Right? So we have to somehow focus. Our focus really has to be studying our activities, practices for sadhana, right? In terms of time of getting up, in terms of rounds, how much reading we are doing, how much non-devotional activities we are engaging. All these should be very much under control. Well, it's fine. Okay, somebody is engaging in some non-devotional activities. Okay, let it be limited to whatever time it is, and constant effort should be to bring it down. Mm. So, but for all that, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, right? When there are very high exalted devotees there, we should serve them. We should take the opportunity to serve them, right? And which we won't get on regular basis, right? So the only rescue for us is Bhagavatam, right? So we have to read Bhagavatam on a daily basis. As many hours we are able to read, so quickly we will come out of this. We will come to this Nishta stage, and we should see Sattvaguna in us. And if you want to understand what Sattvaguna means, what are the characteristics of Sattvaguna, we can read Bhagavad Gita and 11th canto of Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita is good enough. It explains. When we read Rajas and Tamas, we'll understand. Whatever is not Rajas and Tamas is Sattva. Right? So, and we should come out of this Rajas and Tamas. Mind speedy. One thing actually I've observed, I don't know how many of you would have observed this. When the chanting, if we are chanting very fast, chanting fast. At one point of time, I used to finish my rounds in 1 hour 30 minutes. At one point of time, 1 hour 30, 1 hour 40 minutes. And I used to see that my mind was actually at the same pace it was going. It was in rajas, and at the pace at which I'm doing chanting, my mind is also roaming around. Right now, by Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy, somehow I've come to this 2 hours to 2 hours 10 minutes chanting for 16 rounds, and I can see that actually that rajas and tamas is slowly decreasing. Slowly, not nothing to speak about, but slowly decreasing. Right. So in every activity of bhakti, we should do this. We should try to remain in sattva guna. At least when we're chanting, we should do chanting in sattva guna. If we are cooking, for example, we should cook in sattva guna. I see a lot of people in rajoguna in cooking, right? Radharani's kitchen can't be in rajoguna. Has to be in sattva guna. So nice hearing. Spend more time. It's okay. It's a service. It's a very important service. My wife is not in town, so I've been cooking for the last 7 days, and I realized saying that we get into so much rajoguna. Oh, no time, no time. I started 7:15. I had to finish by 8:30 before class. Now I'm cooking, and then suddenly something that doesn't go as planned, and then we're like in rajas. So then I decided like, okay, 10 minutes earlier only I will start, because I don't want to go into this rajoguna while cooking. Um, but it didn't happen. Like yesterday, came back home late, slept late. Morning, everything program went for a toss, and then Rajaguna. Right. So it's important to fix some of this. Right. I'm saying because these are practical things which we experience. Mm. So somehow we have to try this. Right. Fix at least fixed Bhagavatam time. Right. 16 rounds chanting, good quality chanting, fixed Bhagavatam reading. If we can do this, we'll automatically in course of time come to Nishta. So very important. I don't know. It's each of your schedules, etc., etc. Somehow you have to figure out at least give 1 hour to Bhagavatam, serving Bhagavatam, right? And whenever there are senior devotees, etc., serve them. But don't replace serving by sadhana. Sadhana can't be compromised. Sadhana has to happen. Chanting, reading has to happen. Go and beyond that, yeah. Some other services we can reprioritize some things, right? But if we don't do this, why Prabhupada gave this morning program? See, we have to understand it's a very simple thing. Prabhupada has given us already whatever we require. If we simply do morning program, evening program, as Grihasthas, we are done. Diligently, if we do, automatically we'll make progress. So just recapping and open it up to any questions. Nishtha means steadiness and bhakti, which means we have to that steadiness comes only when we are in sattva guna, when all this laya, vikshepa, all this laziness, spiritual indifference, then kashaya, which is sinful habits, rasaswada, all these are characteristics of rajoguna and tamoguna. So when rajoguna and tamoguna stop, right, that means when we come to sattva, nishta manifests. And without nishta, we cannot make progress. We cannot go to the higher stages. We will see only semblance of higher stages, meaning, or let me not semblance. We might see some aspects of higher stages. Like sometimes suddenly we'll develop some attachment to Krishna, but all these are not going to be fixed. That attachment is for 5 minutes in 24 hours, like that, right? But when we actually come to steadiness in smarana, steadiness in shravana, steadiness in everything, then we will actually come to the real stage of ruchi, which we will understand next, right? But we have to ensure that this steadiness is there, for which track your own sadhana. Track your own sadhana, have a sadhana chart, track your own sadhana, and don't be spiritually indifferent. Don't be spiritually indifferent. What is the solution if you are spiritually indifferent, meaning chalta hai? What should we do? What should we do? If you have spiritual indifference, what should we do?
We should either consult a senior devotee or take help.
Mm. Yeah.
you know where you're slipping, try to rectify.
Yeah, we should not leave it. We should not just ignore it. Right? Like Mataji said, we should take it seriously and we should absolutely go to somebody who can pull us up. And we should not allow these. I mean, these are just, this is going to kill bhakti. It's just going to kill bhakti over a period of time. Right? Very, very dangerous things, being indifferent about spiritual things, engaging in sinful habits, engaging in sense gratification. All this has to be stopped. If we don't stop this, then we are not going to make progress. We have to understand we will remain here only. Anartha nivritti only, we will finish this life, which is very sad. Prabhupada has given us a process which can take us to prema, and halfway through we are stuck. Not even halfway through, actually. Yeah. 30-40% mark, 40 to 60%, 40-50%, anartha nivritti. We'll get stuck there. Of course, we should recognize anartha nivritti is the most difficult phase because it is effort. It is our effort. Everything else follows, which is mercy. Little effort, lot of mercy. Lot of the effort goes in anartha nivritti, which means coming to the stage of nishta. So, nityam bhagavata sevaya is the answer. And what is the result we should see? We should see ourselves coming to Sattva-guna. When we see ourselves coming to Sattva-guna, automatically Nishta happens, steadiness happens. And we'll reject all this nonsense because in Sattva-guna, we can see everything on the platform of knowledge, right? So we'll say, this is not good. This is not going to help me make progress. See, even if you don't understand all these technicalities, rasaswada, vikshepa, and, kashaya, all these technical terms, even if you don't know, we know that, okay, whatever I'm doing here, it pulled me down in bhakti. I should avoid it. Simple. Very simple, commonsensical thing. Something I'm doing, if it is helping me progress in bhakti, then it's good. Anukulya sankalpa, pratikulya varjanam. If it's not helping me, then I give it up, and that is surrender. Sharanagati means giving up the nonsense. If you don't want to give up nonsense, if you want to hold on to nonsense, then how can we make progress? So, summarizing, Sattva-guna, coming to Sattva-guna means Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. And with that, we should see steadiness in all our sadhana. And automatically, then our mentality, mindset, everything will change because we are in Sattva. Okay, so I'll conclude Nishta. Any questions, anybody we can discuss? Is it okay? No questions. We have to just do it. That's all. Nike, just do it. Okay. Okay, we'll stop here. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo Namaste. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.